Hello again, this is Ray Lutz with Citizens Oversight. I want to give you a few more details about the snapshot oversight procedure for monitoring election processing. I'm going to run through a few of the things that are involved with this whole process. It's actually very easy to implement. It doesn't take a lot of time. Step one is sending in a letter to your registrar voter's office, and in this letter includes the request for a snapshot CD and the information about when it was created, and the fact that the snapshot needs to be created prior to the random selection of the precincts. This is very important so that the inside person who might be compromised does not know which precincts are being selected. Then in the same letter we have the request that we witness the precinct selection, the 1% manual tally process, and that we get a manual tally report, and that we might want to review additional items. This letter itself you can use almost exactly as shown here, except that you may want, you're going to need to change the names and so forth on it. Okay, next I want to show you a few scenes here from our process, and the first step is in the actual day of dealing with the ballots coming in. You can see here, this was in San Diego. I believe this was in 2005, or maybe it was 2008. This is the incoming inspection area where the ballots come in, and these workers here would be opening up the boxes. You can see some down there being opened up, and then they check them. Next, they take each precinct and they bring them over for memory card pairing. And actually, I don't think this is the right picture for that, but they have to pair up each precinct with its memory cards, and then they go through the process of scanning, and they have all of these workers. Here's one here, next one, and so forth. Here's the scanners that used to be used inside the precinct. They're the Diebold, now called Premier scanner, and each one of these workers feeds the ballots one by one into the scanners on election night in order to get the whole election counted. Then they take those scanner cards, which are memory cards, out of the scanner, and you can see one here in this girl's hand, the woman's hand. She then inserts it into another scanner here, which is hardwired into the central tabulator, and then it reads the data off of the memory card into the central tabulator. Each one of the scanners that you saw in that prior picture produces a tape. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a tape that's associated with each precinct that comes out of the scanner. They first zero it out, and then they produce the totals. So there is a way to go back and check for each one of these precincts that produces a tape if what they got into the central tabulator matched what the tape said. Then there's this room here, which is where the central tabulator is. Central tabulator is just a computer, and it's interesting that in this secure room they also included a voting machine. I'm not sure why that was in there, but we made a note of that. And on the screen on election night, they're listing each one of the precincts as they come in. Now that's pretty much the end of what happens in creating the canvas. So I'm going to switch over to here a different folder, and this is where these are the files that we got actually from the actual canvas itself. Oh, I should go back and show you that later. Well, let's take a look here, because on election night you can actually get the website report, and what you do is you download this actual XML file. I'm going to open it up with an editor, and this was you see the gubernatorial primary, the date, and you see here to be counted. There's still 98,000 ballots that have not been counted. This is on election morning, and they still have almost 100,000 that are not counted. Those are the mail-in ballots. Here you see the governor race. This is only in San Diego County. The number of ballots counted here was 317,510. There were blank ballots, meaning that they didn't get, sometimes nobody voted on those ballots. These reporting, 1,616 precincts reporting, are somewhat, as I said, because there's still 98,000 outstanding, it looks like, oh, we've got all the precincts counted, but there's still a lot to count. And then you see each one of the candidates, you can see their name, and the number of votes that are reported. This is the official end of the night report for which includes both the mail-in ballots and the precinct ballots. I should mention that one of the things in our letter that we had to ask for, let me go back to that, is we had to ask for them to keep it separated, because you don't want to, you want to be able to separate the manual tally votes from the mail-in votes. So we want to have a complete snapshot of the votes in the election prior to the random selection of the precincts, and so that the snapshot is directly comparable to the results of the 1% manual tally. And we need to say here that that the 1% manual tally, we should be able to compare the results of the snapshot CD. That means that they have to separate the ones that were coming in from the vote by mail ballots from the other ballots, because the ones in the ballots that are involved in the 1% manual tally are only from the precinct ballots. Now then, so that XML file is one important thing to collect on election night, very first day. There is then the canvas, and I should show you the picture of the transfer. You can see here the registrar, Michael Vu, handing me, Ray Lutz, the CD containing the snapshot of the election. And so we caught that on video, and this is a snap out of the video. And then later they did perform the manual tally. The first, at that same day when we got the CD, we also did the selection of the 1%. That is and here's a volunteer, one of our volunteers, who is drawing the ping pong balls randomly to select each one of those precincts. And we got the CD prior to this. Let's see here. Later, start the next week, they start the actual process of manual tallying. And we're in there with the camera, and you can see here that they have, maybe it's kind of hard to see, but they have 3 people. I guess here's a good example. This gentleman, this woman, and this woman sitting at a table, and between the 3 of them they have 2 people recording, doing the tallying, and 1 person calling out the votes from the ballots. And they sometimes change to different modes of counting depending upon what they need to do. They would not let us get our camera too close to the ballots in this case. Now, going back to the oversight of this last election, I want to show you that on the CD is this very large file, which is 177 megabytes. And it's something that normally you're not going to be able to read with most programs. I can edit it with Notepad++. It's trying to read it in. Just to show you an idea of what it looks like. It is a comma-separated value file. Okay, here it is. I'm going to turn wrapping off so it's a little bit easier to see. All right, so what they do here is they separate. It's a very repetitive file. This is the name of the consolidation district. They have there's no headings on these, but this is the precinct number, the official one that you would know about, but this is not the sequence number that they use internally, which we had to ask for the conversion file. This first part is just first 3 lines, talks about the entire for this precinct. They go through precinct at a time, and here we're talking about governor, the number of precincts in the race. They come on down, how many registered voters for that, how many times they were counted, blanks counted, and you see they're separating these into polls ballots and mail ballots. We're only interested in the polls ballots because that's what we're going to be able to count. So they get 3 line items: a polls, a mail, and a total for every single thing. Overvotes, undervotes, and then finally in the governor's race, the first candidate, Luis Rodriguez, Green Party, okay, and he's candidate number 5. This is his this is his candidate number, 8258. This is the race number, race 5. So in the option is race 5, candidate 8258. In the poll ballots, he got no votes at all. We got 1 mail-in vote. All right, that's an example. And so this goes on and on. Here's Edmund G. Brown. For this precinct, he got 147 mail ballots, 34 poll ballots, 181 ballots total for the incumbent. This goes on for every single precinct, or every race looks the same. I'm just zipping through it here so you can kind of see how long this is going down. Over here on the left are the line numbers. Look at our thing. It's barely down from the top. We're already down to 4,000, line 4,000. Let's go all the way to the bottom. So this file has 1,327,494 lines. It's a really big file, and it's something that I think they actually put it in this format so that it makes almost anybody choke on it, because they wouldn't have to make it this long at all. That's the raw snapshot CD. Now I want to come back here and look at, and they put it in a zip file. It's 11K, 11 megs in a zip. Now in three of the precincts, we just looked at 3 of the precincts, but what we have is a file here, which is the precinct number conversion to sequence number. And this is something that you can kind of create from the file itself, because it turns out that the sequence number is just simply the sequence in which the precinct numbers are found in the file. But when you open this, and we're going to open it in a regular spreadsheet this time, so you can kind of see, well, it didn't work. I didn't separate them out. Try that again. We need to say vertical bar here, because that's how they're separating it. All right. So you see the precinct number we just looked at, 105000. That's actually sequence number 1. And the name is in Rancho Bernardo. These are all in Rancho Bernardo, the first 23. This is the precinct number that the people voting see. Internally, they use this number because it starts at 1 and it goes all the way up to the end. So this file here is a conversion so that we can go from the selected numbers and the numbers that they use internally, which goes up to 1403 in this case, and then 575. This is the public number, so you need that. And then there's a program here, which is to convert the gems to the calc program. When we do that, we end up with a fairly small, less than a megabyte of the canvas. And in this example, what we have here now is one line. Let's see if I can show this. All right, let's go up to the top. What we end up doing is reducing it down one line per actual precinct. This is the, oh, I see, this is the precinct number, the official outside precinct number. This is the number of voters, the number of ballots, and then we have the races here. See, this is race 5, all in separate columns. There's many, many columns. Keep going to race 5. So race 5 comes out to here. So basically, this is a really, really wide spreadsheet, and fairly tall as well. Let's see how many lines it has. It should have the same number of lines about as the number of precincts. These precincts at the bottom are, they're still actual precincts, some of them, but some of them are kind of a mythical. Like here's the last actual number in Boulevard. Here's where you start having vote by mail precincts and the 999 series. They're not actual precincts, but that's how they group them up into regions where they're going to separate them out somewhat. All right, so coming down to the bottom then, the results from the whole thing down here is going to be exactly the same, this line, as the XML file that we were looking at a few minutes ago. Let's take a look. We have an example, Edmund G. Brown. This is only the polls, 41,905. All right, so let's just check that one. Go over here to take a look at that XML file. and this is saying 145,490. So we have to take these two and add them up to get that number. But if you took 41 and you add to 103, that would be about 144. I'm not sure why that isn't exactly the same, but basically it's supposed to be. So this file here, we only need 16 precincts out of this so that we can compare with what the results are of the manual tally. So I'll close that, put this aside, and then we can basically compare. Now, the other thing I want to show here is we had some other responses to our requests for information. I guess I'll have to get that a little bit later, but we did get the tally sheets, and we're able to go in and look at the rosters. They won't let us copy those because they have signatures on them. The goal, again, let me go back to the our presentation slide, and let's see where that is. Snapshot. There it is. So if we take a look at this slide here, again, let me go over this. We send the letter in, we pick up the snapshot CD, we get the precinct selected, we look at the manual tally process, we get the report, and we compare that. We should actually see, if we're going to catch them, we should see a difference in those races. After we do the data reduction, I showed you how to reduce the file down. We have a program to do that. And then we pull out the precincts that are of interest. We should see these precincts in the yellow, which is the manipulated version, differing from the actual ballots that are counted. We actually have the Registrar of Voters counting the ballots for us, and if we use this right, we can have them check to make sure, and even if they just know that this process is happening, it'll keep them from, it'll keep that compromised worker who's working in here in the central tabulator from doing the bad thing and manipulating the vote. So the goal here is to replicate this in different election districts, as many places as possible, if you have the 1% manual tally going on, if you have durable paper ballots so that you can look at them, then I didn't need to do that. If you have you have to have durable paper ballots, and you need to be, they need to be doing a 1% manual tally or something of that nature. Now, it would be better for us if this was about 5%, because that would make it more likely that we would catch a likely manipulated vote. But with the 1%, it's high enough so that a worker, a compromised worker, would probably not go ahead and do his work on compromising it. All right, now, so what we want to do is replicate this. We can provide you with the program to reduce the data. We can help you reduce the data from the snapshot CD and give you each precinct that's going to be in the 1% manual tally so that you can compare it. And then when you compare it, if we do find any difference, and especially if they have to rerun, if they have the ballots here and are counting them and go, oh man, these are all off. We're going to have to run those through the scanner again. And then they had to run those back through the scanner to get a different result. That meant that there's been some manipulation here in the central tabulator of that precinct, and that would raise a red flag really high. So you want to make sure you get their report of the manual tally, especially whether or not, I guess it's here, the report after the manual tally is complete. In that report, you want to know if they ever did have to rerun any precincts to get the data to match the actual ballots. If they had to rerun them, then that means the output of the central tabulator was manipulated, at least for that one precinct, and then that raises a red flag that we'd have to investigate. Okay, so this was with Citizens Oversight. Please contact us. Let us know if you're doing this in this upcoming election, so that we can work with you and make sure that we keep their feet to the fire, and they know that we're watching them and they can't do any manipulation, and then we can help you in any way that we can in order to get the data reduced and do the comparison so we can see if they are manipulating it. citizensoversight.org. Thank you. Don't tell me it's not running. All this time.